Within each and every role player lives this homeless character who wants nothing more than to quiet the heartbeat of every living thing that stands in his way. Today we celebrate this all too familiar character with...
Well now, looky here. It's the Murder Hobo Show.
Welcome to the Murder Hobo RPG Show, Episode 13, Deadlands and Community Questions. Recorded March 26, 2020. I am one of your hosts, Gary, the Murder Hobo, and I'm here with my host, my co-hostess with the mostest, the cherry fill-in on the Razamadazzle, Uncle J-Raz, a.k.a. Captain Colin. What's going on, my man?
Oh, not a whole lot, man. How are you living in the state of what's going on these days, man? Are you isolating yourself? You washing your hands? You doing all the needful stuff that you need to be doing?
An extra hands washer all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. I've refused to bathe or shower or bath. I just wash my hands, and then that way I stink. And then when I go out in public, people don't want to come anywhere near me anyway. I'm gonna let my hair grow out and shit like that. I'm gonna try and get a touch disheveled. And while I don't know if the homeless look is good at this stage of the game, you know, I might get beat on, but right, I'm going to try and go for. I gotta balance that sword edge, right? The just between disheveled but not homeless look.
Right. What they call homeless chic, you know, where you actually have like money in the bank, but you just decide to look like this. Right. And to tell you the truth, I'm actually going for it, man. I'm actually going. I do have to shower though because it's just gross. But I can't get a haircut anywhere, and I can't get my beard trimmed, so it's all just going floof. I don't care. As soon I want to look out, and as soon as I reach out to daylight, I'm going to take a picture of what I look like now to just, you know, memorialize it.
You know, your beard's gotten big when you can see it in your peripheral vision.
Yeah, you're like, whoa.
Yeah, you look down, you're like, what the hell's that? It's like I didn't realize the cat was on my chest. Oh no, that's my beard.
Yep, and there's that French fry you lost.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there's a little. Well, for me, it'd be some mayo, some dipping sauce. My wife always looks at me with disgust when we have dinner because I always end up with like a pea in my beard, and I'll be talking, and it'll be like hanging on like a little green, you know, a little green Smurf kind of thing, just dangling off one of my beard hairs, trying not to fall into the plate. Don't let me die. I am just a pea, and I don't want to get chewed on.
Save me, giant Gary. That's what happens.
I saved him all right in my mouth. So, this is a podcast all about role-playing games, and as usual, we will ramble incoherently, like you just saw, in an attempt to sound like we know what we're talking about and hope you don't call us on our bullshit. So you got no games going on right now?
No, I don't. Like all of my live games, they dried up. You know, I was running Lost Colony with my wife and some friends over at their house, and so we all just decided I guess it was a week or two ago that we're gonna not do this. And then I got a Wise Guys game that I run with my sister and my nephew and a couple friends up where they live. And I told them, I was like, we're not doing this for a while either. So that's all I've been doing is just kind of like focusing on or just trying to decide on how I'm going to get my gaming Jones on. You know, am I going to do it online or am I going to work on something, you know, or just some ways, shape or form, you know, how am I going to get my game on? Mm-hmm. You know?
Fantasticals. My Dark Heresy game on Tuesday was supposed to go, but because of, what do they call that? Social distancing and self-isolation. Those two words that have been going around the internet, spreading faster than the coronavirus itself. That game was put on hold, so I don't have any in-persons going on, but fortunately, I am the Mac Daddy, the Smack Daddy, the Jibber Jabber Flap Daddy of playing online. I don't even know what that means.
Nah, that sounded good to me. That sounded like you were trying to sell yourself.
A little bit.
That's what I would do.
I was just hoping that you would look at me like, what the hell are you talking about?
I can't look at you like that.
Oh, fantastic. All right, so today we're going to talk a little bit about Deadlands. I don't know what you got going on there, but there is some Deadlands action going on there, Jay.
Yeah, I just I wanted to sit down and just actually have a conversation with you about Deadlands because we both like it. I would hazard a guess to say it's probably your second favorite Savage World setting, where it's probably my favorite Savage World setting.
Wow.
So, Oh yeah, if anybody were to ask me, Deadlands is what brought me to the table. Deadlands and Rifts.
Nice.
And but what's funny too is the first time Savage Worlds GM, I would not recommend starting with either of those, but I did it, and that's how I put on my big boy pants and knocked it out. But yeah, I just wanted to have a conversation with you about Deadlands, and because I know it's your jam and it's my jam too, and so let's make our jam together.
Sweet.
Hopefully not toe jam. Hopefully it'll be more like a strawberry rhubarb instead of cho and foot jam.
Gonna mix your rhubarb with my strawberry.
Yep, that's usually what happens.
Nice. All right, and then we're gonna do a little bit of community questions. Mm-hmm. I do believe we got some there.
So I tell you what, man, if you're ready to ride on off to the old west, let's do this.
All right, Jay, take it away. Deadlands discussion, section 2. We're going to talk about some Deadlands today. What are we talking about here? What do you want to know?
All right, so the big thing that's going around right now is, when I say around, I'm talking about the Savage Worlds community and just other things too. Like a lot of Kickstarters are getting postponed. And the big one that was coming out, in fact, I would say questionably the big one that was going to come out this year, that we knew about anyway, was going to be the Deadlands, the Weird West Kickstarter. But they postponed it, in fact, they say that they actually have somebody on staff that's sick. They don't know if they attribute it directly to the coronavirus, but, it may be. So Peg Inc. is kind of putting a hold on things right now. But even though they are putting a hold on the Kickstarter, that doesn't mean I'm putting a hold on my excitement for this that's coming out.
I can see the chub you got going on in your pants from here.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like sitting down way, way far away from Gary. You can see it, but he's got wiener vision, so he's able to, scope that out.
I have wiener vision. Nice. Yeah. Please don't tell my wife I have wiener vision. She'll never look at me the same way.
No, that's just that's just between me and you. But
I hope it's not. Please don't let wiener vision be between me and you.
I hope not. Oh man, here we go. This is how we start off with wiener vision.
Right.
But yeah, I wanted to talk to you about the Kickstarter being postponed and just talk about what they're going to do with Deadlands in general. So Gary, what do you know right off the bat what they're going to do with the new Deadlands Kickstarter and the new launch that they're going to do for it? I just want to know your knowledge.
So my knowledge is relatively limited, but apparently this is going to be a Deadlands story rewrite, right? They're going to take out some of the stuff that they've put in the last edition, and as well as Deadlands being North American, they're gonna bring it in by pinning it down to an area like Dallas is what it's gonna happen, right? I know it's not Dallas, but it's gonna be a town called a thing with a name, and that's where all the adventures are gonna take place on and around.
Mm-hmm. No, I'd say that's fair. I'd say that's a pretty accurate statement.
95%, 100%.
Yeah, I'd say that's very accurate. And so I wanted to talk to you about this too, because my entry into Deadlands was a little adventure called Coffin Rock. Now, were you familiar with that one?
Refresh me a little bit, because I've seen it. I think I own it, but I haven't read it.
All right. So Coffin Rock is essentially, you go to this town in Colorado and a lot of weird stuff happens. In fact, it doesn't make any mention of anything that goes on outside of, like, in the typical meta plot. It doesn't talk about the Reckoners, and it doesn't talk about, it doesn't mention anything about Hellstrom and anything like that too. It just talks about a town out in Colorado where all this weird stuff's going on, like zombies and things like that. It does mention Manitous, but I think that's kind of like indicative of like the Old West. That was kind of like a thing, the evil spirits and whatnot. I don't know if it was directly attributed to the the meta plot with the Reckoners and everything that's going on. But so Coffin Rock is essentially like a little mini sandbox where you go to the different locales in town, and like different various things happen when you go in, and you can trigger like, you can trigger zombies like attacking you. You trigger like these soiled doves there in the saloon where they end up attacking you and they try to eat you. And just a bunch of like all this crazy stuff where it all just culminates in like there's this Manitou that's hanging out over there, and you got to get get rid of that guy. I think I believe that's how it ends. But it's sort of like that too, where you go to these different locations there in the town, and you sort of figure out what's going on. And so it is like a little mini sandbox. And I've always been fascinated with that because I think that's a really cool idea. And it just drop you into town like, oh, here you go, figure it out. So does that ring a bell?
It's one that I haven't played. Now I'm curious to know why start with Coffin Rock.
It was one of the first things when I was thumbing through, and it looked like it was a fully encompassed adventure. It looked like it was longer than a one sheet, and I wanted to look for something to base a campaign off of. And I said, oh, this is cool. I don't have to go here. I don't have to travel this way and that way. I can just do everything right here in this town, and I can watch as the NPCs go, or not the NPCs, as the players, just kind of go around. I can, sort of follow them and build from where they're going. And it just sounded kind of cool to me, where I had, I'd never really run like a sandbox in that sense before. And so where it was actually kind of designed that way, where you just like the whole town's laid out. And if they want to go to the saloon, if they want to go to the print shop or the newspaper or whatever it was, a printing press place, if they want to go there and talk to some people, they could do all that too. And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. So that's why it appealed to me.
I still can't find the one that I'm looking for here, whatever the bloody book was called. But it's
is it The Flood?
The Flood. It is The Flood, isn't it? Flood. Let's see what I got here.
I think The Flood was the one because they come out in chronological order. They come out in a certain timeline because I want to say like, that's funny too because I never really got into that part of Deadlands. I never played any of the straight up standardized plot point campaigns. I played Coffin Rock where it was more of a sandbox, where it was more, I think what they're trying to do anyway with Deadlands now is make it sort of localized, where everything was just sort of happening there in town, where you didn't know what Hellstrom was doing and you didn't know what Old Man Stone was doing and anything else to you. You weren't aware.
Man, I'm highly irritated that I can't even find the bloody thing. But anyways, yeah. Yeah, so in Deadlands, I was asking around when I first started playing it, and The Flood being the first one is the one where you, Eric Lamoureux right away, he's like, there's some serious problems because you crash on a train. You start in this train going down the tracks and it crashes. And you find out that there's a great big hole, but, what if you don't want to go down the hole? Like, you seriously have to railroad your players to get in there, right? But it was really good, man. I really enjoyed the plot point campaign in the first one. I got quite a ways through to it. There's some really great adventures and stuff in it. And, I've done that. I've done a lot of... I also played another cool one, too. I don't know if you've heard of this, called Don't Drink the Water. And so... Yeah,
I've heard of it, but I've never read it, though. So that's sort of like another mini campaign?
Yep, it's just a short little adventure, and basically you set it in any town. This guy hires you to take a wagon across the Mexican border, and you go down and duke out some zombies and watch out for the federales. And yeah, it was actually really good. I had a lot of fun with that one. It's one of probably my more memorable first Deadlands campaigns.
Now, what did you play? What was your first character in Deadlands, or what did you play as? I've never got to play Deadlands. I've always run it.
Yeah, I never played it either. I always ran it. We're a couple of GMs here, man. We don't play much. Oh, actually, I'll tell you my first Deadlands character. Eric Lamoureux ran this game online. I can't remember what it was called, but we had to go do some searching for a thing. Oh, no, it was called Pedro Must Die.
Yeah, Pedro Must Die.
Right? So my whole thing was I was a taco vendor, and Pedro had come in and taken my sister, and so I was looking for revenge, but my special abilities was all evolved around like Mexican food. I was basically like a bean caster, right? So I used my armor spell would be like beans that would just swirl around me and deflect bullets and stuff. Or I would cast different like burrito sauce bolts and stuff like that, or you know what I mean, black bean bolts, shooting them. And that was I think the first time I ever actually played Deadlands was with Eric. He ran that. Pedro Must Die. That's a really good adventure too. Everybody has a reason why they want to kill Pedro, and you all go try and find him.
Oh, that's awesome. I wonder if that's one he made up himself, or he crafted. I don't know if that he might have. He's good like that. He's good at writing one shots.
Yeah, he's crafty, all right.
He is. Now, I want to say I think life kind of got in the way of what happened with Deadlands, so we ended up putting that on hold and we never came back to it because I think Rifts kind of followed suit, and that's when I was running a bunch of Rifts at that time, right after that. But no, I started running Deadlands online. That's when I started fooling around with Fantasy Grounds, and I always there was always one shot that one shot that I always gravitated to, and that was Buffalo Soldiers, because that was the one shot that made things click for me. Because this is what you do. It gives you an example of some stuff you can do here, but then I can put more stuff in it. It's like, all right, you can make an omelet, man. You can put some ham and you can put some cheese in it, and that's what they give you. Man, you can put some extra sauce on there too. I mean, just because it's a ham and cheese omelet doesn't mean it can't be a ham and cheese and salsa omelet or a ham and cheese and pepper omelet. Am I lying? No, I'm not lying. It's almost delicious.
You should put mayo on it.
That's the grossest thing I ever heard in my life. Mayonnaise and eggs. Oh God, that's disgusting.
Wow.
Yep, I have a violent reaction to a couple things, man, and that's being mayonnaise and eggs being one of them.
So yeah, it's kind of crappy that this Deadlands Kickstarter is getting postponed. I have a funny feeling that a lot of what they're going to be doing is going to be postponed. I think once this virus sort of flies around us and hits us in so many levels that the economy is going to take a while to sort of rebound from this. I'm sure it will. I don't want to be no kind of naysayer or nothing like that, but depending on how long this puts us out and puts our economy down, people aren't, we're not in a business of, but RPGs are in the situation of being the thing that you do when you have expendable money. It's an expendable money thing.
Yeah, it's one of the first things to go. Like you always, when you got to tighten your belt, it's the hobbies that's usually the first thing that's got to go. Mm-hmm. Regardless what it is, if you go fly fishing, you got to tighten up that shit. If you, if you go out and you surf, you got to tighten up that shit too. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Unless you got a board, unless you got to buy multiple boards, but maybe you don't. Yeah, you just don't buy any more surf gear. But yeah, that's sort of what you got to play what you got. If that's,
maybe that's how it is. Yeah, I mean, how many surfboards do you need when you go surfing?
Yeah, I don't know, man. But mean, if you're a surfer and you're a hobbyist, I mean, you're probably going to want to collect a lot of them.
Right. It's funny that you got to go surfing though when we're two fat old dudes that probably haven't even seen the beach in 30 years.
I don't know what a beach is. I don't. I mean, and I'm from Washington. I mean, I know what a sound is, but like, what's a beach? That's for other people, man. That's for skinny, people in California, dude. That's not my scene.
I think I'm a beach, but the only reason I think that is because some East Indian guy was yelling that at me at work. He's like, "Hey, beach."
Jesus
I wouldn't let him touch my water hose. I didn't want to get the coronas. He's like, "You a beach."
Right. And so, yeah, you were just, you were social distancing. You were telling them what's going on. But yeah, I don't know why you call you a beach, though. That's an odd reference. That's sort of weird. But
you know what? The one Spanish word or whatever that I know is gorto. Oh, no, actually, panay. Panay or panay. That's water in East Indian.
Oh, is it?
I don't know what you.
Oh, interesting.
Right, and then gordo is fat, I think. In Spanish,
gordo is fat in Spanish. Yeah.
So I know those words: water and fat.
All right, there you go. Fat water. That's your new name. Wow. You know what? So as far as like, I know that they've made some revisions, or they're talked about making some revisions. But I wanted to ask you, what do you think? And also too, like I've played, I've backed the Lost Colony Kickstarter, at least the digital, side of things. So I got all that, and I'm kind of like using that as like an overview or sort of like a preview of what's going to happen with Deadlands. And what I'm kind of like, I really think that what's going to happen is they are going to like strip out, I think, or not so much worry about like the big meta plot story, like the Reckoners. Yeah, they're going to be a thing, but you don't have to worry about it. You can just worry about what's happening there in your town. But I also think too that a lot of the things that made Deadlands, like the fate chips, I think they're going to go bye-bye because, I mean, you don't see those in Lost Colony. In fact, you don't see those in any other incarnation besides Deadlands Reloaded. And so I'm just wondering, this being now Deadlands the Weird West, that's what they're going to call it. I just wonder if they're just going to do with fate chips and just go the whole Benny route. What do you think?
It's a good possibility. I mean, they have changed a lot of things from the structure of fear in the newer editions. Not that there's a new fear in new editions of Deadlands, but in the new editions of Core and stuff like that, they've stripped fear, they've stripped charisma. There's quite a few things that they're sort of pulling out and simplifying and easing up on. And I was just, man, you caught me off guard there. Deadlands Noir, I was trying to think if they use fade chips or not. Or not the fade chips, but the color chips. I like that, man. That's some cool stuff. But yeah, I'm probably going to guess the way things are going, they're just going to steer Deadlands a little closer to Core. So I would have to agree with you. I think that's probably going to be a thing that's going to happen.
Yeah, maybe there'll be special bennies, but I think the fate chips, I think they're just going to go, I think they're just bennies. Let me think here too. I think they're going to, as far as like the arcane backgrounds, I think that, I think you're going to still see like the blessed, which are essentially, going to be your priest, your priests and everything. You're going to have the blessed, and I think you're going to have a huckster or maybe a hex slinger in some form. But I don't know if they're going to go through all the stuff that you had to do, because you remember like the huckster, they could actually decide to deal with the devil if they were losing power points, and so you could turn that into a whole little mini game and a whole little mini poker game and and whatnot. And also too, I wonder if they're going to change the dueling rules, because that was another big component. That was one of the ones that you had to study up on if you wanted to have a duel. Mm-hmm. And I just wonder if it's going to be some sort of I don't know, like a quick encounter or maybe a dramatic task sort of thing now.
Did you ever use the dueling rules?
No, I never did. But I remember like long ago, I remember you talking about him. So I always wanted to ask you about him too, just to like get you in a corner and like well, tell me about the dueling rules and tell them how they worked out for you.
Well, so it's like the chase rules in the new Suede edition. We had to literally run the chase rules probably like 7 or 8 times before the group that we were playing with actually understood what you could do on your turn, how it affected other things, what repercussions from certain actions were, and then the more we did it, the smoother that it got. And that's the same way that the dueling works inside of Deadlands. The more you screw around with it, the more it sinks in, the more you realize the mechanics, how they're working, in a sense of, if you're gonna draw quick or if you're gonna take your time to aim, are two things that you can do. And then of course you've got the cards that will affect everything and stuff like that. But I had so much fun using the duel rules. If you haven't played Deadlands and you're gonna try the duel rules out, read the duel rules and then flip the page over, because on the next page after the duel rules, there's a table that's like step 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 2 or 3 pages of how to play how to do the duel. And then if you just flip it over, there's like a quick little, step 1, step 2, step 3 kind of a thing. But I gave one of my players a Benny. I'm like, who wants to duel for a Benny? And so this kid took me up on it. And what I did was he was a weird scientist. And he had like a gun that shot green lasers or some things like that, right? So I'm like, as they came into town, I can't remember what his name is. We're going to call him Jimmy for some reason. That's my favorite thing today. And you hear this, Jimmy, you varmint. I didn't think I'd cross eyes with you. Here you are. He's like, and he starts walking out to the middle of the street. He's like, you done stole my gizmo. You stole my patent, you took my stuff, and you're going to pay. And so the two of them face off in the middle of the street, threw down some cards, and it can be tense, man. It can be tense when the cards start getting dropped on the table, and you're sort of playing this hand of poker and hoping that you have a better hand than the other person that's going to allow you to shoot first and maybe get lucky and kill them, right? It's fun. I like them. I had a good time with them, and I enjoyed the duel rules.
See, that's what makes Deadlands awesome to me. Well, number one, you just kind of proved one thing that really kind of appeals to me too about Deadlands. Is you get to talk like this when you're playing it, boy. Every time, it does, like I'm running, I was running Deadlands Lost Colony, and that's a little bit remote. I mean, it's a whole planet removed from Deadlands, and it's about 200 years in the future from core Deadlands. But like even there, I'm on Banshee, and it's like all my PC or the NPCs all talk like this. I mean, that's Deadlands, man. That's how they all talk like this, man. They all talk,
You know what's funny? That's perfectly reasonable and perfectly understandable as far as I'm concerned. If you've watched multiple seasons of The Walking Dead, you'll see there's that one part where they meet the trash people in the junkyard, and they have like evolved this entire new language. and it's so dumb. I think for me that was the jump the shark moment, because she looks at Rick and she's like, take him to the up. I was like, what the hell? What is this?
I think I was checked out way before then. I think I was checked out like season 6 or so. I was like, all right, they got to keep doing stupid. They can't possibly keep doing everything stupid. The worst, making the worst possible decisions. But yep, kept doing it.
It seems to me like they're just dragging the show out. There was 2 seasons of Negan. That should have been whittled down to 1. Now there's 2 seasons of The Whisperers. That should have been whittled down to 1. That stretching it out over 2 years, you know what? Like, it's going to lose its flavor over time. It's just like anything; it's going to fade into the wind, right? There was a time when The Walking Dead was hot. Now it ain't, or it's not so hot. It's still kind of a good show, but they need to get in there, tell a story, and get out. Like 1 story per season. Let's deal with Negan 1 season. Let's deal with the Whisperers 1 season. Who's next, man? You know what I mean? Like what kind of crazy, weird kind of, maybe they get the preacher next round, and he's he's converting everybody and stuff like that. And you know what I mean? That's like when we did our Dead End podcast that has yet to come out. But that's the interesting part about it. These crazy people that spring up into power and have control over a group of people and come at you. Anyways. So yeah, I mean, if you're 200 years in the Lost Colony future and you're still talking like it's the Wild West, right? All the power to you.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned, The Walking Dead in that sense too, because The Walking Dead sort of encapsulated like what happens at a local level. You're in a shitpoke town in the South, and this is what happens. These are little communities that kind of happen. And I think that's kind of cool, like what they're supposed to be doing with this, with the new version of Deadlands. We're just going to take it to a town level, or like you said, I think the first one that they talk about, in fact, pulled it right over here, is it's supposed to take place in, it's in a Horror Headstone Hill, and that's out in the Uinta County in Wyoming. So already I'm already envisioning some cool, crazy stuff just going on right there in a little bitty town.
I think Headstone is the town, is it not?
Yep, Headstone Hill or something to that effect.
Is where everything's going to take place. Everything's going to sort of circle around here.
Right, and I think that's just one sort of box set that you get. You get the Headstone Hill box set, and I think there's going to be another town, like you said. There might be you said Dallas. I mean, there might be a Santa Fe one, or there might be another town like in Colorado or Arizona or New Mexico somewhere. So I actually kind of like that, man, where it's just like it's centered on these little towns as opposed to like this big this overarching like meta plot. That was the one thing I think that's really kind of daunting about Deadlands Reloaded is, I mean, all this stuff happens. All this stuff. It just, it's kind of daunting because you got to play through all of this and, oh crap, like these guys are, are they gods or are they not gods or what are they, devils? You're essentially fighting this metaphysical war with, heaven and hell in some sense. And like, man, I just want to shoot zombies with a shotgun,
if you want to shoot zombies with shotguns, the Don't Drink the Water is a good one. There's zombies in it. You head down to Mexico and zombies come out and you got to blast them. And they come out while you're sleeping, so you don't even see it.
Man, that's interesting. I'm going to pull, I might have that because I do have a lot. When I first discovered Deadlands, I went effing nuts, man. I just went to DriveThru RPG and said buy. So I have a crap ton of stuff, so I have to look through it and see what all I got. But I think I have that.
I like to roll through my settings from starting to finish, but what you're talking about previously there is the reason I like 50 Fathoms so much. There's a lot of material and the world's relatively big. I wouldn't say that it's North America big. There's 17 locations, 17 cities that you can go to. Every city's going to kind of be the same, but they all have their little flavor tweaks. You have like the Asian place. You have where the Atani, the Flying Seagulls live and stuff like that. The Walrus are up north in a place called Arfk. So it's not overwhelming when it comes to the background material that you need to read as a game master. It's only 100 pages and you're sort of fully loaded and expected to fill in the rest, which is really nice. But you're not dealing with material that spans a continent, which is, for me, it was also daunting when it came to Rifts. until I started reading the history of rifts and stuff like that, and I realized, okay, you don't need to sort of play everywhere. You can zone in on a place and stick it to that.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I got my sweet box set, and man, those hardcover books are really nice, dude.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yep.
Yeah. Are you not talking to me? Oh, that's right. My bad, dude. I should be sensitive to your plight. I'm sorry, man. Yeah, they got the border closed off, and my man gets his stuff across the border. Sorry, dude.
Yeah, I live in a border town, and 24/7 parcel pickup is 5 minutes away across the border. But because the border's closed, my stuff is there. So I don't know what's going to happen. I think that what will end up happening is my stuff will get returned, and then they'll have to reship it back to me or something like that. I'm not sure. It's going to be a while. I think it's going to get lost in the mail here, is what I'm thinking. So, yeah, but
they ought to just ship it to me, man, and I'll give it to you next time I see you.
Give it to me where?
With her. Yeah, next time I see you, or whenever that may be, with or without P. I can't promise anything. I'm not Nostradamus. I don't know what the future's going to hold. But that's kind of like when I started hearing about that with Deadlands, because when I played it and when I ran it, like I said, the meta plot never occurred to me, and I also too like a lot of stuff that just kind of like went on in the background. I guess it's supposed to have that never really trickled into my game either. There was never we never ran into any like active Confederacy or anything like that too. So Deadlands, there's been some controversy with it, but I think right now, they're really trying to make this probably the best and most streamlined version of Deadlands that they've probably come out with, as far as the Weird West goes. Over the years, like anything, your morals change, your views on things change, your style changes. Your waistband changes in size, right? Oh, yep. And so this is just the evolutionary step in Mr. Hensley's Deadlands, I would assume. We're getting smarter, which is kind of a good thing. We're progressing as society, as far as I'm concerned. For the better. I'm ever the optimist, I would assume. But we learn things. We're like, why do it the hard way when you can do it the simple way? The story ends up being better, and I think that's what's happening now. We're taking a 20-year-old setting, and then we're just we're going to expand on it a little bit, tear it apart, put it all back together with less wires, more Wi-Fi. Yep. And what's arguably probably the best version of Savage Worlds. Suede, or Suade, or however you want to call it. I call it Adventure Edition. Because everybody calls it Suede, and I try to buck the system. But I would have to say, just look, I'm an iconoclast. But just going through, because I've looked through Explorers Edition, and I haven't looked at the original book. I have it on PDF, and I might have thumbed through it. But like just going through Adventure Edition, it's really the cleanest and the most it's by and large like I'd say the ultimate version of Savage Worlds, and it's still like a living thing, and there's maybe subject to change, but I think after running it for 15 years, I think they really got it nailed down with this version, and I'm just excited what they're going to do with Deadlands with the new version of Savage Worlds. Yep, it's going to be. I'm going to be all in as soon as it comes out. I can tell you that much. I'm putting money aside for it right now. I'm getting my street corner dancing money. Yep, that's how I make a living. And I don't know if they're going to like release these little Kickstarters, if it's going to be like these one little boxes or whatever. That's what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to put aside I don't know, the money that I use for other things to go for this. I'm not going to tell you what those other things are because FBI. That's all I'm saying. All right. Well, we're going to leave it on the FBI note then and move on to community questions. That's next. Actually, I got one last question for you. Lay it on me. When you get Deadlands, the new version, can you run it for me? Dude, I will run you some Tabletop Simulator 3D full on. Yes. I already got a bunch of Wild West, not Wild West. I got a bunch of Western assets that I've been hanging on to, old barns and old buildings and stuff like that. I think I got the Lamoureux Saloon going on. Oh, sweet. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's super awesome. I got some buildings. I've been editing the image files and stuff like that so that the buildings actually have people that I know's names on them and stuff like that. I'll make that's super awesome. Jay's Sex Saloon. There you go. Visitor 1.
Nice. All right. Community questions. Here we go. Community questions. All right, Jay, this one's for you because you're old school. What makes an RPG old school? Question mark. Hello, everyone. I write RPGs as a hobby. I share them for free online, and they receive some success in the French. Oh, in the French RPG player. Did Eric write this?
I think so.
However, my biggest project seems to suffer from being old school, as stated by several people on the web. I cannot ask directly, but I suppose this question, this is because the rule set is cumbersome or overly complicated. But maybe that's not it. Therefore, I wonder, what makes an RPG fall into modern or old school category? C'est bien. What does c'est bien mean? Does that mean be well? Something well?
I think so. I think that's what it
merci.
means. Yeah, it means I think it means happy pants.
I just remembered thanks. It says thanks, and that's merci. Mercy.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Mercy buckets.
Now, the question ought to be proposed to you, my man, because you've been playing D&D since, it was regular school. It wasn't old school. It was just school. That's what you had. You had I imagine you started when you were, you said you were 8 years old, so that's roughly, 79, 80 or so when you started. And you'd probably know more about this than I do, but I think the old school one is like, if you want to quantify or you want to qualify what an old school RPG is, I want to say it's rules like Dungeon Crawl.
Okay. I want to say nope.
Okay. All right. You go ahead. You tell me what your definition of it is.
All right. So let's talk old school first edition, right? I mean, that's kind of old school. That's sort of the big one that came around and might have been one of the sort of the more prominent ones. But what do you got going on old school that you don't have now? You got messed up THACO. You got skills for everything. You got rolls for everything. Saving throws for all sorts of redundant stuff. You got spells for everything. You take a look at initiative. Back in the day when you were rolling THACO, you needed to beat THACO is to hit armor class 0. So let me think about this for a second. You would roll a d20, and you would need to roll to hit the armor class of 0. So if they had an armor class of 3, you would have to roll whatever your THACO was. A fighter THACO level 1 would be 20, right? So if you needed to hit a 13 armor class, you had to roll over 7 minus your bonuses. See how convoluted that is right out of the gate? And it's probably a bit of reversal and add some numbers on there. I should have looked up my THACO skills, but if you put it in front of me, it wouldn't take me long to pick it back up. Saving throws is another thing. Back in the day, they were quite a bit different. You would have death, paralyze, poison, magic, those kinds of things would be your saving throw numbers. And then inside of that, you would have those numbers you'd have to roll over them. The numbers would get smaller and you had to beat them. So THACO worked the opposite way. As you progressed, the numbers would shrink and you'd have a greater over-rolling, and then saving throws, they would increase and you'd have to roll under. So there's this convoluted sort of, you're doing a thing one way for this and you're doing it another, whereas in 5th edition, everything roll high is 5th edition can be simply described as roll high. That is not 1st edition. 1st edition is you better know if you got to beat it or if you got to roll over or under, or roll frickin' sideways, and then charts and
Oh, you talk about charts, man. I think about Marvel, phase rip. That's the one I cut my teeth on. It was D&D for you, and phase rip, man. Charts. They're like pretty much. I want to say a good fourth of the book was like, what the hell happens on these charts? All right, just what you had to do. Anytime you rolled something, you had to flip to a chart. Okay, and you're just sitting there being a little 11-year-old kid, like that, twiddling your thumbs.
You start throwing down some maps and minis. You could get gang up bonuses depending on where you're at. If you pulled away, you would have the the free attacks and stuff. There's a lot of rules in 1st edition that you needed to know. Charm in 1st edition was based off how intelligent you were, or not you, but how the person you were casting it on. So if they were a real dum-dum, you could charm that sucker for months. You could have that guy shine in your boots for like months at a time. Swear to God. It's not like that now. In 5th edition, you cast Charm every round. They get a saving throw to pop right out of it. I like the old school ones for that, but I think that's sort of what makes an RPG old school is the an overly cumbersome and overly complicated rule set. Can be fun too, though.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, if that's your thing, I mean, nobody's precluding. Nobody's saying that these aren't fun. I mean, you can go as simple as you want to, or you can go as difficult as you want to. I mean, we talked about TRICUBE Tales, which I think is pretty much a masterpiece in simplicity in a lot of senses. But, if you want to break out, I've heard stories about Roll Master and Hack Master and Crap Master and Jack Master and Flip Master and Flat Master. I'm like, nah, our Table Master, that's what they called it, Chart Master. So later with that, man. I like. Yeah.
Is that
I like the way things are now.
Is that your role-playing system that you're going to make? It's going to be called Chart Master?
I think that's going to be called Fart Master, if you know.
So this is how Chart Master works. You just roll a d20, and it's going to say, okay, go to you look at the table, it says go to page so-and-so. When you get there, it'll be like, roll another d20, go to page so-and-so.
That's exactly it.
Right?
And it's going to be like several. Yeah.
You hit, roll a d20. Oh, you hit in the arm. Go to the arm page. Go to the arm chart.
It's going to have several books for each, location. The toe book. What happens when you hit the toe?
Do you know how dead we would be if we had IBS that long ago when we were like adventuring in the forest and all of a sudden you're like,
oh crap! Literally, yeah. You got to go drop one in the, out in the forest. The next thing you know, a bugbear has got you right by the gotcha.
Mm-hmm. I tell you, you know what? You know where I'm never adventuring with bowel issues in ever? The desert.
Where? Why's that?
Right? There's no leaves.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, try wiping your bum with a cactus.
Right? Sand or a rock.
Yeah. Right. Here you go.
Right?
Yeah.
I try and keep the sand out of my crack.
Yeah, I'm with you, man.
All right. Question number 2, Jay. What is it?
All right. I'm going to read this one to you. So, keeping focus during an online game. I have a lot of trouble keeping focus when playing through Roll20 or Skype. I thought this one was very appropriate. I think that part of it is that with a device in front of me, I can too easily check out on a different page. But it's not always being the same, but not always being in the same room as other players kills the momentum or the conversation. Does anybody have any tips to improve this, either for me personally or to tweak our setup? All right. Yeah, I got a suggestion for you. Put the phone away. Or I guess if he's playing through Skype or if he's playing through actually his phone, it's a little different, I guess in that case. But it sounds like that this guy just, is sitting there in the game and he's sitting and checking out. I'm like, how hard is it to focus on what's going on, man? I mean, it is easy to want to do that. But I almost think if you're not focusing on what's going on, you're not doing anybody any favors, man. You're going to miss out on something cool or you're going to miss out on something important. But yeah, you owe it to yourself just to, pay a little damn attention, my dude. I don't have any tips for you because I'm not because I'm a near 47-year-old man and I know how to pay attention to things when I need to,
Sometimes
so that's
you got to put your big boy pants on. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, that I guess maybe I'm not approaching this the right way, but maybe there are some definitive tricks or anything. I don't know. Maybe the dude needs one of those the fidget spinner or something, or if he needs kind of something constantly to play with, or something like that. I can understand, but it sounds like either if he's having trouble like medically, I say go see a doctor or something. But at least just try your best, I guess, to keep focused. I don't know, Gary. How do you respond to that?
If you are having problems focusing while playing through Roll20 or Skype, I would recommend going to get that checked out. You probably have some kind of attention deficit disorder or something along those lines. And I'm not trying to be an asshole or be funny about this. Because for me, this is a simple task. I can sit at my computer and I get heavily involved in role-playing games, and I can get immersed in all that other kind of stuff. And I'm involved as well. Maybe try being more involved in what's going on. Be a little louder, maybe I should say, is sort of the word I'm looking for. A little more active in the conversations and stuff like that instead of fading out. But this is my point. I don't have any problems focusing. So, and I don't think that it's a thing that people would have problems focusing at. So if you're having issues focusing, you probably have some kind of ADHD or something like that, and maybe smoke a bowl like Jay, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, helps me
FBI,
out.
woot woot.
Right. What were you saying? No, I'm teasing. No, there's ways to help that too, or or CBD oil. I don't know, man. I can't diagnose you medically. This isn't the doctor, the Doctor RPG show where you come and tell us about your problem. We're just plucking questions from out there. But that sounds like something. If you're having a hard time focusing, man, that's something you might want to go, get checked out.
What do they say in the comments here, Jay? They say shorter game times, 1.5 to 2 hours.
Yeah,
maybe take a break in between there a little bit. Take 5s every hour.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, especially online too. You just make a level check and just see how everybody's doing. Because sometimes, man, your butt gets numb sitting in a chair. You want to get up and stretch it, and sometimes you got to go, get you something to eat.
This guy here says, close your eyes. If I close my eyes, I fall asleep. You just see me snoring in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, this guy here he goes. He said it. Listen and interact as much as you can. You sort of keep your mind in the game and keep yourself engaged.
Yeah, that's exactly it too. That's what I wanted. When I'm playing, I'm always trying to listen to opportunities. For me to jump in and say something funny or just or to do something clever or pithy or whatever in the moment. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm always trying to do. At least for me, at least from my standpoint.
Now you've given up the goods, and now I know your play style, and I'll be weary of you, mister.
Uh-oh.
Question numero 30. Am I a bad DM, or is there another problem? Did you pick this because of me, Jay?
No, I just thought it was appropriate. I thought it was a really good question.
All right, here we go. I have a DMing question. I recently been feeling helpless when I DM. My players only played with me and themselves, and they aren't... This sounds like a sex question. My players only played with me and themselves. We sat alone in a dark corner. We had our pants off. The soft candlelight glistened across my polished dice bag.
Yeah, I dipped into the wrong subreddit here.
Did you close your eyes there, Jay?
Yeah, I did for a minute.
My players only played with me and themselves, and they aren't the biggest role players and like to metagame a lot. Dude, problem is, I feel like I have to guide zombies. They follow only what is super obvious, and their characters aren't super fleshed out either. Okay, I don't need to sort of go any further past this. It sounds like your players aren't really interested in playing, and maybe you just need to go find other players. Like, pick a group that's interested in what you have. You're trying to sell ice to Eskimos is essentially what you're doing. They're not buying what you're shipping out, buddy. They're not interested. That I wouldn't say it was you. I would say. But then again, you wrote this letter, asshole. It probably is. You're probably a shit GM, and they're all like, "Man, this guy sucks. He can't tell a story." I like the guy that was talking about glistening candle ball bag things. Yeah,
at least there was a point to that. Right? No, as far I will say this though, that there are different kinds of role players. There are some people that are not going to do any voices, that aren't just going to get in with it, and they're just going to actually just. It's going to be just an extension of themselves, maybe just a little bit, maybe just in the sense that that this extension of themselves has got a big, sword or got a bag of spells or something. But that sort of thing too. But yeah, if you're not, but also too, like, number one, if you're running a game and you're not having fun, but everybody else is, like, you want to level set that with everybody. You want to say, look, man, this is what I'm trying to do, and you guys aren't really taking the bait. So what can I do as a GM to make you guys take the bait or do this? What's going to help me engage? Like I said, instead of going to Reddit, why don't you go to your table and talk to them about that, man? You're the one running the game, dude. You need to own that shit.
That's right. It's probably the best advice that you could hand out. It's time for an adult conversation.
That's what I mean, that's what a lot of this boils down to, is people run to Reddit or community questions like, am I a bad DM because I do this? I'm like, man, I don't know. I don't know your table, bruh. I mean, I can read the text, but ultimately you got to talk with your peeps about that stuff, man. You got to always level set and always temperature check.
Mm-hmm. Talk with your peeps, your peeps, your peepees,
yep.
Peepees. Talk with your peepees.
Talk to your peepees. I agree with that. All right, I'm going to read you a question now, Gary. Hey all, and this I thought this was a good one because this kind of pertains to something that was going on in your recent games, I believe. Hey all, are there any good settlement building games out there? I've done it myself in the past using a lot of spreadsheets, but I'm looking for something I might be able to drop into a system. I'm hoping something like, I don't know what let me see, I'll have to Google that, but FITD is. I'm looking for something like that, blah blah blah, where the actual building happens during downtime. But yeah, what do you guys suggest? So that's what's going on. Building settlement.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't even know where to start with this. What is a settlement building game?
Mm-hmm.
This sounds like this was posted in. It should be like a video game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't play games to build towns. What?
Well, there's I guess what this is going on. You know how I guess this is what happened in your ICRPG game where somebody had a building or something to that effect, and they would build an establishment. You know, I think you had somebody who had, somebody had, I don't know. Somebody had a brothel and somebody had something else going on or whatever in one of your games.
I know what you're talking about. So I'm playing an ICRPG online game right now in Tabletop Simulator, which is a 3D environment. We decided to start in this town called New Haven. New Haven is actually the town of Flan in Dungeons and Dragons. And so it had 5 or 6 buildings. And every time my players need to go to a place or do a thing, I'll choose one of the buildings on this map and I'll just rename it. So you've got Lore and Latte, which is where you go for books. And I wrote down the librarian's name is Theo and stuff, but you can go there for books and coffee. That's the library. You've got a Herbs and Salve's place and stuff like that. Herbs and something else. I can't remember what it is. So basically, but I'm not playing a settlement building game. It's just that I'm putting buildings in my game. Or places that my players can go to when it comes up in the book. But, man, a settlement building RPG game?
I'm hoping that this guy's just talking about, like, maybe a mechanic. Because, I mean, I wouldn't want to just sit there. Well, it's like, I don't know if you ever played Fallout 4.
Yep.
And the guys on the 3T, on 3T RPG podcast were talking about this in the most recent episode. I thought it was fine up until the point where you had to build multiple settlements. If they let you just focus on one, it'd be fantastic. But no, they let you build them all over the map. And the next thing you know, you're out, doing this. You're out fighting a super mutant who's kicking your ass. And next thing you know, you get an alert that says, we're running out of water down here, at Blavely Newsport. And I'm like, man, later with you, dude. I got a super mutant. I got a superhuman behemoth like whacking me to death. And you're worried about water. You just pump it, dude. Just go and pump it. But anyway.
Can you do that again while I go get my lube?
There you go. Oh. I hope you have it on standby, man, because I do a lot of like very ostentatious movements.
Sadly enough, the only thing that I have of liquid form on my desk here is glue.
That's the wrong way, right there.
That's the wrong lube. Why? Tell me this, Jay. Why would you need mechanics for building a settlement?
I don't think you need mechanics to build a settlement, but I think you can. I think. From my experience, when I was running Rippers, you got to build a lodge, and that's actually pretty kind of cool. But you're not building like this whole, like environment. You're building like an area where you go and hang out and like have certain things, and you have NPCs that you can interact with. But it's not a big like village that you're building. It's a lodge. It's a building. And you got a couple of people that are hanging out there, and we had a lot of fun doing that. I said, all right, guys, we're going to build a lodge, and so you rolled up. I say, because you're allotted so many, with regulars or extras that hang out there. And so I got to roll on the, personality chart just to determine what kind of people they are. And that was kind of fun. Made up about 6 of them. And they all hung out there in the lodge. And they could, the PCs could, they could opt to take 1 or 2 with them, to help them out. But I think as far as like building something completely, I think that's a whole separate game, dude. I think you want to go play Settlers of Catan or something.
Yeah, it sounds like you want to play a video game. It's really weird because you know how long it would take to do that kind of stuff? Like you go out on an adventure, and that adventure might take you in real time like a month, but really you've only been gone for like 2 or 3 days, a couple days travel getting there and a couple days getting back. Now, I could see that it would take quite a while to build a settlement as opposed to what you're talking about. A lodge is just a building. And back in the old days, Dungeons and Dragons, you can build castles and stuff like that in D&D. There's, I think, mechanics and rules for that, but an entire settlement, that would be super, super involved.
Yeah, you'd have to get all your players involved, and that would be you would essentially have to like, all right, we're going to have to put everything on hold for a minute here, and we're going to have to spin up, a new little world building or settlement building exercise here. So let's do that for a day or two. And I don't know. I think like building a lodge was way more fun because you just do it and everybody incorporates some stuff. But this sounds like you want like your whole PCs to like build this elaborate sort of like compound or some sort of, settlement for lack of a better, another word for what the dude was saying.
Yeah, it's very, very time consuming. And for me, personally, it doesn't sound like any fun whatsoever. In my TTS game, it's actually kind of fun because I just keep it simple. Anytime we go back into town and my players want to interact with their and they actually use this to their advantage. When the rickety stairs, there was this set of stairs that was old and dank and breaking and stuff like that. And one of my players who owned a lumber mill basically tried to sell the guy new lumber for the stairs. I'm like, that's actually pretty smart, right? So he's wheeling and dealing as a lumberman. But it seems to me that this kind of stuff, building a town or a settlement, takes away from the actual role-playing stuff that you're, you know what I mean? You're not actually out doing adventures and stuff like that. It's not adventurous building a town. That'd be boring as hell, unless you had like a swarm of orcs that were trying to come in and take it over and shit like that. But if you were to build a settlement, Jay, and you were to be, let's say, a store owner, what would you be? And what would your store be?
If I had to own a store,
and it can't be marijuana.
Especially, it would be potions. I would sell elixirs and whatnot.
Yeah, that's right. You would. Uncle Jay's lotions and potions. Yeah, we got you.
Potions.
Your rub and tug specialists.
Right. Did you say the potions of motion? Because that's exactly what I call it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
I'm going to start a store called Big Gary's Jerk and Jerk.
There you go. What is it? You get jerk chicken and what lotion?
Yep.
Two things we specialize in.
Jerk chicken and the greasy batter that you cook it in. Sell that a little lotion on the side, so when you're whacking your stack, it smells like a hot French frying greasy machine, right?
Jesus Christ, right? Jeez,
you can masturbate to the sweet smell of a freaking food frying machine.
Yeah, just like the carnival, baby. That's where I lost my virginity.
Get me out of here, Jay. What's next?
All right. Yeah, you read this next question here, the beginner RPG help one.
I don't know if you come to the right place for this, but beginner RPG help. I'm looking for an RPG to play with my kids, and I have the D&D starter set. I know it's supposed to be a good starting spot, but I feel a little overwhelmed. I would love to find a simple rules light RPG. I would love to find some kind of simple system online. Maybe even a one with multiple adventures with maps that can be printed. I've read that Dungeon Slayers is a good and simple game, but it seems like most of the adventures aren't in English. I've even thought of trying to create something like this myself, but will not having really played games like that. Wow, man, people in English. I get discouraged. Any suggestions would be greatly appreciated. Go.
I'm going to throw it back to you. I'm going to say ICRPG is a good one to start off with, man.
ICRPG is a fantastic one to start off. What else you got?
I'm going to say Age. I'm going to say the Age system is a fantastic one to start off with people. Yeah, for kids even, too.
What are we talking kids here? We're talking 5 years old?
Yeah, well, actually, if you're talking, like, if they're talking about, like, little kids and everything like that, too, man, I'll tell you what, if you want to start off, if they're talking about, like, little kids and everything where he's still talking about, like, feeling, like, if he wants the rules light, TRICUBE Tales, my boy, that's about as rules light and as fun as you're going to get.
Mm-hmm. What about Hero Kids?
Hero Kids is probably a good one. I don't know too much about that one, but I know that Monty Cook, they do their, what is it, No Thank You Evil, which is sort of like, but that's like the cipher system, which is like, that's even lighter than what the cipher system is. So yeah, that might be helpful, but I'm thinking like, if you want to start, if you got little 5 and 6 year old kids, you don't want to bog them down. TriCube Tales, I think, is a perfect one to start off with little kids. I think it's amazing, and maybe the tiny system too. I haven't read a whole lot of that. Start them off small. Like get them just like let them understand how the dice mechanics work and how this other stuff and all the like the little pieces and parts go with playing an RPG, and then you start progressing them onto something like a little more rules medium, like maybe Age, in that sense. Maybe a little,
Savage Worlds.
Yep, Savage Worlds. If Cypher's your jam, that's cool too. I tell you what though, you do not want to put fucking Pathfinder in front of your damn kids. they will run and cry because you know what? They don't want to have to do any more. They don't want to have math that's going to break their brain.
Maybe maybe you turn those little bitches into Einstein.
That's true. Maybe you do that, or maybe they just end up crying like, I don't know, it's hard. Not like, that's ever happened.
They start crying like Jamie Pearson.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly what. This hard. I don't want to play.
I can't do simple math. A
modifier.
Yeah, what's a modifier? I need pictures. I need pictures only. I don't play modifier.
Modifier. It's too hard my head.
Tell me if I succeed.
That's awesome. We got it. That's our new.
Man, people listen to this podcast. They're like, "Who is this Jamie Pearson guy?" He is the leader, our king and high commander of the Nerds International, and we love him very much. I
agree. He's a fantastic guy, and I just love giving him hell any chance I get because I don't know, I don't know how you grew up, Gary, but we always screw with the ones that we like the best in my family.
Kick them when they're down. That's what I always say.
Yep.
And who's more down than him? He's down. He's down to clown.
Oh, he's down. All right. Next question here. What is the difference between magic and psionics? I'm not talking about D&D in general, because a lot of systems are both magic and psionics, but what's the difference? Mechanically, it's usually psionics being Jedi shit and magic being magic. But what's the flavor difference between the two? You go ahead and take that, and I got an answer for you.
Oh, I thought you were going to go to the bathroom or something like that.
Oh no!
You go ahead and take this out. I'm going to go take a shit.
Yeah, I got to go run.
What is the difference between the two flavor-wise? Well, for one of them, okay, so magic being magic usually requires semantic, verbal, and material, right? As far as D&D goes, so you need these components. You need to be able to speak. And you need to be able to wiggle your fingers a little bit. And if you don't have those, you ain't casting magic. So psionics is just mind magic. The flavor difference is, I guess you wouldn't have to use your hands. You do everything with your. I don't know. What? Get out of here.
Yeah,
answer the stupid question.
No, well, that's exactly it. Magic is done physically with components or rituals or spells in that sense. And psionics is magic with your mind. That's all it is, bro. It's not that hard. It's really not that hard. In fact, that you even wrote in a question about that. I don't know, man. Did you write in what's the difference between a car and a truck? I don't know, man. I can't help you.
But what's the flavor difference between a car and a truck?
Yeah, one's got 4 doors, one's got 2. So what's the flavor difference? Yeah, I don't know, man. I thought that was a pretty stupid question, so I wanted to put that up there.
F that guy in his dumb question then.
Yep.
We got any more?
Yep. All right, so actually I'm going to ask these last two to you, and these come from some beloved nerds here in Nerds International. And so Conrad Erasmus Neubert writes in and says, what type of RPG will you be playing and or running when you are 98?
Whatever kind of RPG system I can get the nurses at the hall to sit in and roll the dice for me while they slurp the drool off my face and feed me applesauce. Whatever the nurses are into is what I'll play.
That's what I was about to say. I'm going to be playing Depends, Depends the RPG, or Feeding Tube the RPG. It's going to be a lot of Sponge Bath the RPG. Whatever I'm going to get in the home, that's what's going to happen to me.
And I hope when I get older, I end up in a nursing home and I have just random boners all the time. Do you know what I've heard? I've heard that nursing homes are like cesspools for old sexy time.
They are. In fact, there's a big rise in STD transference in the nursing homes, because that's what are you gonna do, man? You ain't got nothing but time. And if you feeling spry or whatever, maybe that extra tapioca pudding put a little spring in your step, and you're gonna go see old Mabel down in room 4A. There you go, brother. I'm not mad at you, man. So yeah, knock yourself out. Make sure that old Mabel doesn't have the the rotten crotch. That's one thing you want to watch out for. You want to make sure you get that all scrubbed, but
I'm just hoping by that time I lose my mind and then I could just hump whatever, and then nobody could really be mad at me because I don't know any better.
That's my number one retirement plan. Is I just hope my brain just turns to oatmeal. I just go blah 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 blah, and I don't know anything. That's pretty much what I'm hoping.
I'm just gonna shit wherever and hump whatever comes my way.
Yeah. Hey, good looking. That's all I'm gonna be.
I'm gonna be a walking dirty old. Right.
So
It's all part of the
dirty old man
retirement.
and a dirty old man walking around. How's it going, honey? That's what I'm going to do. All right.
Oh, that's
so our
so bad.
last question here. Our last question here comes from Matthew Dookie Butter Jones. That's my new nickname for him. I just wanted to give him a new nickname. And he says, if all but one polyhedral dice were to become non-existent, save for one, which one would you save?
Me first.
So 7 polyhedral dice. That's standard in the D&D pack. You can save one of them. Which one do you save?
I'm going to save the D20, and I would tell you why. If all of the dice are becoming non-existent, and you have that D20, and your world goes post-apocalyptic, the best chance you have for taking out wild game and surviving is the most spherical of the lot. You could put it in a slingshot and shoot somebody in the face with it. That's why I'm keeping that dice.
That's a good one. That's a good answer.
And you know what else? This is the other thing.
What's that?
You can't get a D20 stuck in your butt.
No, it's scientifically impossible.
You get a D4 in there, a D8 with those pointy edges, man.
Yeah, you're done. You're done.
Right? That's not coming out without bleeding and tearing.
Yeah, that's that's hemorrhoid waiting to happen too. If you're asking me, and I'm just going to assume that you are, I'm going to go with the D6 because I mean, D6 is a universal die. At least we need to keep that. I mean, everything kind of shuts down if we don't have the D6. D6 is the cornerstone of everything that this is all based on. You can't play Yahtzee with D4. Grandma's sitting there picking up those. Ow! I hurt my hand. She's not going to be able to do that. You can't play Yahtzee with grandma with a D4 or a D8. She's like, I don't know what this is, but D6, man, that is the cornerstone. If you lose the D6, man, it all falls apart.
I think your answer's better. I think you're winning. I think the D6 is probably the most important dice out of all of them. In fact, you can actually play full-on RPGs with just D6s. If you played some Dark Heresy, you only need D10s. You had 2 of those things. You could play some Dark Heresy.
Well, a lot of what I played back in the day too was all D6. I played a lot of the hero system, and that was all D6. In fact, when I had to remember, it's like, the D&D dice. That's what I called them when I was younger. Because they were different. They had the D4 and whatnot. But no, I played a lot of games with D6, and Age runs with the D6. So yeah, I mean, you can still play a game. You still play a lot of games with that. So I'm going to say that's my jam is D6.
Fan schmesticles. All right, that's it for the questions. Let's get out of here.
Let's do it.
Well, that's it for this edition of the Murder Hobo RPG Show. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you didn't, as usual, we don't care. Also, bah humbug to you.
If you are interested in submitting submitting 2 community questions so you can hear us poke fun at you and otherwise not answering your question honestly, you can do so at Murder Hobo.
At who?
Murder Hobo Show. Murder Hobo Show at gmail.com. Yeah, Hodo. Murder Hodo.
Hody-do. Hody-do.
Hodo. Yeah. So Murder Hobo Show at gmail.com. Otherwise, send your hate mail to bleep.roll20. See what I did there?
I didn't see that coming. Wow. You can also get us on Twitter at The Murder Hobo Show, on YouTube at The Murder Hobo Show, where I show you how to make 3-dimensional battle maps for role-playing and tabletop simulator, among other stuff. You can watch me do this live on Twitch at The Murder Hobo Show, or your best bet is to catch us over at MeWe. And as always, you can find all of the great nerds from the Nerds International shows on MeWe as well. For examples, such classics as, I say we give oh man, I forgot what you called him, Dookie Boy.
Oh yeah, Matt Jones, because he gave us a shout out. So yeah, let's give all the imaginary ramblings. Matt Jones, Dookie. What do I call him? Dookie Butter. Yeah, that's his new name, Dookie Butter. Matthew Dookie Butter Jones, Imaginary Ramblings, where he, it's a great little pop culture podcast. He talks about a lot of different things. Yeah, it's actually now like more of an essay format too, where he just talks about like different tropes or whatever. Like he's talked about villains recently and like what makes a good villain and everything like that too. So he's branching out. Guy's got a lot to talk about. He's a funny guy, makes me laugh. So yeah, go check him out.
All right, fantastic. Where does that put us, Jay? That puts us at, you can find the things we discussed in the show notes organized by the most recent at the top over at themurderhoboshow.podbean.com.
So thanks for listening, and be sure to tune in next time. We will have another action-packed show where we will talk about things we know little to nothing about and sound professional doing it. Have a great gaming week. Wash your hands. Isolate yourself. We're out of here. Say goodbye, Gary.
Don't forget to visit me over at Gary's Jerk and Jerk Shack. Goodbye.
Yep. Goodbye.
The Murder Hobo Show is not affiliated with or endorsed by any companies mentioned on this show. Any of the products mentioned on our show or appear on our website are the property and copyright of the respected owners. All items are used under fair use for educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of the Murder Hobo Show, copyright 2020, all rights reserved.